Welcome to my shunting demonstration, which allows the interchange of engines using old or new Telex couplers without changing the schedule. This is the demonstration of schedule 21. The engine will uncouple using the action continue. Let's start the simulator, then I shall enable the schedules to run and then start the schedule. The engine will move forward for 8 seconds. Then it will stop, jog backwards, jog forward, and separate. This is a demonstration of Schedule 19B using the action stop. The train will back into yard 12. To speed it up a little. When it gets to here, it will slow down using the middle of the train and stop before it gets to the end marker here. It will then do a jog backward, a jog forward, then separate. Let's have a close look at how things operate. First, let's look at an engine with a standard Marklin decoder in it with 2 Telex couplers. And here you will see that I have added some list commands that have uncouple Telex jog, Telex rear jog, front jog, and automatic. The secret is in how the engines are set up. As you will see, if I have a look at the list command for the front Telex, you will see that I tell it which locomotive it is and which Telex it's using, and then what macro it is being used. On the auto, I do the same. The list, it tells me I'm using the locomotive and it's on auto and the macro that is being used. Now let's have a look at a locomotive that has new Telex couplers controlled by a ESU LockPilot 4, which has the inbuilt coupling waltz. And here you can see that the functions for the list commands, I have a manual jog and I also have an automatic. And again, if I just look at one list command here, you'll see that I tell it that what loco is being used and the macro that is being executed. Now, what you can see is that both set up for an old Telex version or a new Telex version is the same. Let's have a brief look at the macros that I have provided. Here you can see there is a total of 15 macros. And if we look in our inspector window, you'll notice that I have nominated version 1N for one new, and then I describe what the locomotive is and how it is pulling the train and which Telex is being used. And these are the various commands that I give it. If I then go to an old locomotive, you'll notice that the commands are more inclusive, because rather than having it built in as a with the LockPilot ESU, I have to do all the commands within TrainController. And I also have to determine, again, how the train and the locomotive is positioned within the block. And I'll go into this a little bit later. And you'll see here that I'm jogging it backwards, using this, turning on the couplers, running the train for a small distance at the lowest threshold speed. Then I change direction. I also give it a bit of sound, and you can see it's quite complex. Now let's just hide this window and have a close look at the 4 push buttons with associated graphics. And you will notice that I'm showing the train orientation. I've used this method because I can visualize it very quickly as to what situation I have for the block that I want to have schedule specific commands for. The first button is pulling the train in forward direction with a loco facing forward using the rear Telex. The second option is I'm pulling the train forward, the loco is in reverse, and I'm using the front Telex. The third and fourth option, although they occur, don't happen often. But let's just have a look. I am pushing the train forward. The loco direction is forward, and I'm using the front Telex. And the last one, I'm pushing the train forward direction. The loco is in reverse, and I'm using the rear Telex. Now, what I do is for schedule-specific shunting functions, I use one of these switches, and you will now see when I go back and show you the macros how this operates. Let's now have a look at uncouple N automatic prerequisite, and here you'll see that I have the 4 option switches in. First, switch 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then when I go down to the label for that particular command, you'll see I start the macro, which gives all the commands that I need to move the engine forward and backwards and which coupler is being used. And then at the end it tells me that the prerequisite is completed. And if I now go to automatic, you'll find it's exactly the same, except that I'm using different macros for the old locomotives rather than the ones with the new Telex controlled with the ESU decoder. So this is how I differentiate between an old and new locomotive and what particular macros are then executed. Now let's have a close look at the dispatcher. And under the set of schedules I've given as examples, the important one to look for is separate. And if I then do a schedule specific block route setting, you'll see that under the actions, for this particular one, I do a stop list. So select that, and under here you will see that I have my selection switches for the orientation of the train. I then just have uncouple automatic, and all the rest is handled from the macros contained within the engine lists. I then terminate this particular schedule, I wait a designated time, and then I start the next schedule. So it's pretty much as simple as that. Let's just have a look at another one where I use the continue command. And I think if we go down to here, adjust and separate, this is where I'm starting from this block. And if I do schedule specific, we do under the continue list and have a look there. And you can see here that I have a little comment. I delay 8 seconds because the schedule is going to run for 8 seconds. I then select the orientation of the train. I then do an automatic uncouple, terminate this schedule, and delay a certain period of time, and then start the next schedule. So that's it in a nutshell. So I hope you enjoy the demo. Changing an engine for another is as easy as going to the block, identify it, go up to your Change Train Set menu item, and here I'll select an engine with a new coupler, put it up. I have the same orientation, and then just go here and remove the head and close, and we're ready to run the schedule again. It's as simple as that. Now if I wanted to change the engine orientation, I just click on the block, go to my Change Set menu, click on the engine, toggle the direction, and do a close. And now you can see it's oriented in the opposite direction. But I also must look at my diagram here, and because I've changed the direction, I must go to the shunting schedules, go into edit mode, do a schedule specific, go down to my stop list and change it to the second push button, do an OK, and I'm now ready to run the schedule. Now let's demonstrate using the manual option for an engine with an old Telex and a new Telex. I'm just going to use the front coupler, and for that I need to ensure that the locomotive is running in reverse, and then I click on the front Telex. To manually uncouple a train with the new Telex couplers, ensure the engine is going in the correct direction, then select the jog button. This video is supported by a 22-page document which explains the finer details. Let's just scroll through it to have a quick look. I have supplied the TrainController files for you to answer any further questions you may have. For further information, type in Marklin Site within quotes and you'll find me under Ross Stewart's Marklin Site. And here you will see the new entry that I have just put up. As always, enjoy your model trains.